up, you guys? Admin Amy here, aka Mr. Benzedrine. Welcome to the first video chat of Meet the Penname. This week's Meet the Penname is Idon'tedit, aka Angelique, but she likes to be called Angie. The reason why I'm coming to you today is because we're doing things just a little bit differently than what I'd like to plan for. Angie and I did our conversation last night, and this is my first time putting a live video chat together. So my audio cut out a lot. So what we're going to do is a little bit different. Usually you'd see both of us up on the screen and you'd see our whole conversation. But I'm going to be editing it a little bit so you can see the questions pop up. You can hear her responses. If you hear me in the background, I'm going to have some subtitles at the bottom. That's just to help you because that was my goof. But Granger Enchanted is so excited to present this pen name. She was a thrill to talk to. Angie, you were just amazing. Made my job so much easier. There's so many in-depth things that she had to say, so I hope you stick around and listen to the whole interview because it was a lot of fun. Just a reminder that the Enchanted Awards are coming in June and July. It's a Hermione-based award ceremony, and I'm hoping that we can get a lot of people rallying behind it. And so make sure you're writing. Make sure that you're never giving up and you are writing, because who knows, you might be nominated next. But I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to let us get to where we're going, and hope you enjoy it. All right, guys, have fun. I'll see you at the end of the video. Bye.
So I could go through the whole, like, do a beta and all of that, but it takes some of the joy out of it for me, because I do professional writing too, like not a ton. I've only published once so far, but it just so much editing that it stops being super fun. Like, it doesn't feel like just creative writing and having fun. So I'm like, if I'm going to do fan fiction for fun, it's just gonna be like, I'm gonna write what I want and put it up there and people will like it or they won't. But I feel like for the most part, people don't mind it, that it's not edited. Oh my gosh, it's Wolfstar. And I have not written a story for them because I'm not sure I can do it justice, but I have this whole like thing about, I feel like it really could have happened in canon, even with everything else that's going on. Like, I absolutely believe that they could have been a couple and that we just don't know it because Harry doesn't know anything. Completely. I write a lot of Hermione Snape. I really like that pairing. I've done one Hermione Lucius. And I liked the one that I wrote, but that's one I prefer to read instead of write, because there's some amazing stories. Actually, a lot I've found through just people like, I was looking for this one story on the Granger Enchanted page on Facebook. Who else have I written? I have written one with Ron, even though I don't really believe them as a pairing, despite the fact that they're canon. I just don't buy into it. But I guess mostly I do just write Hermione Snape. Oh my gosh. That's going back like a decade. I have to think for a second. Because when I first started writing, I did like OC. Like, my first story was Chosen, which has the Bianca character, which obviously does not exist in Harry Potter. And then I wrote that one, and then I did a lot of reading. And I think it was the first one I read where I was just like, I believe that. It was one of Seer Media Gal, one of her stories. She's amazing, by the way. But I read one of hers and I was like, I totally buy into that pairing now. And then I started just kind of like thinking about stories, as we all do as fanfiction writers, and I kind of became obsessed with it, which is funny to say when it's not my OTP, but I just feel like they lend themselves to stories really easily. And I think as long as you have like the right universe set up or like a reason that it would have happened, like it's very believable. I'm a Slytherin. But I don't know if you've done like the hybrid houses at all. Like I'm a Slither Claw. And I think if I retook the thing, I might actually get sorted into Ravenclaw over Slytherin, because I've just like, as I've gotten older, I feel like I've changed a little bit there, but I still claim Slytherin.
Yeah, I'm a Gryffindor myself.
Nice. So is my husband.
There you go.
I wish that my desk was set up the opposite, because right now all my stuff is like here, so you can't. Actually, I'm going to show you a picture. I have like a whole Harry Potter like potions shelf going on. It's awesome.
Right. Oh no, it's showing up. Oh, that's so cute.
Kind of cool.
I got your Ron Weasley up there.
Yeah, I've got the one from where he's in like his Yule Ball robes, and then I have the Dumbledore from that, the 4th year too. Actually, I think that the Harry Potter one is too. It's only Hermione, the one that's Hermione that's not the 4th year version of it. The actual, like I'm writing this, it's going to get posted online, does happen right here at my desk. But most of my writing happens like on random like notebooks where I'm outlining the plot, or like on notes on my phone. So it'll happen in bed, or if I'm like on break at work and I'm bored. So I feel like my writing area is everywhere. But when I actually sit down and it's going to get posted, I do it right here, which is in my living room. So you're seeing like the window to outside. And this is a couch. This is a giant beanbag, which I have to show you. I got it for Valentine's Day. Oh, it's got all the cats on it. Just one touch. It is huge. It's like the size of a bed. I love it. No. Still almost everybody that I know in real life doesn't know. I have like a small group of people that I role play with. It's like D&D, but we don't do D&D. We do like all these other, I don't know if you've heard of All Flesh Must Be Eaten, but anyway, we do that and they know. So that's like a group of like 8 people, but pretty much no one else actually knows. They just know that I'm a writer, because I have like my published work too. So I can be like, oh yeah, I'm working on a writing project, and everyone will just assume it's something that I'm planning to get published. They don't think, oh, she talks about writing all the time, but I haven't seen anything. I just find it interesting. So entertainment wise, just really like, I love going to action movies. But I like it if there's like character, there's a reason that I should care that this person's trying to save this other person. So that like sort of brings the angst in, because there's always there's always something that somebody's upset about when you get into one of those adventure stories. I just find them interesting. Not to say that I don't read like fluff pieces are good too. I just think that sometimes fluff like gets lost in having actual plot. And so I like the pieces that are that sort of angsty or adventure that, or both, obviously, since I created my own genre there. Because maybe I just approach things from like a logic base. So I need what's going to happen in the story to make sense for why that would have happened. And I feel like in that genre, you get that with every story in that genre that you read. So I feel like the characters will just sometimes like take over where their plot is going. Because like before I ever start a story, I'll have like just a note lined out of like, this are the points that I want to hit, and like a general idea of like how many chapters it's going to be, where we're going, where we're going to hit when. And I tend to line it out like by song per chapter, because then it's like there's like a sort of a tenor to each one. And then I'll be like 10 chapters in and like, oh, well, now it would make more sense if they were doing this. Like, this is what it seems like the story is going towards. And so like, you have to like rewind and do your whole outline over again. Oh, right. Baby girl. Okay. So I think I initially, like, someone sent me a Tumblr post or something, and it was talking about this idea of like Harry messing with Ron and like pretending to hook up with everyone in the family. And I thought it was really interesting because it like, that's not something that's explored at all in canon, obviously. And then you see some fan fictions like touch on it a little, and some really go in deep to it, but particularly with what the culture just for us in real life is like right now. I thought that would be really interesting to just kind of dig into that and how that would impact the whole like regimented society of pure-blooded wizards. And I like thinking about it just logically how each person would act. I did feel like, you know what, Ron, I think really would struggle with a bisexual character or a gay character or any even ace, like all of them, I think he'd have a problem. So I just thought that was an interesting thing to kind of dig into and see how they act when you put them in a different scenario. Okay, so my play, it actually is adapted from a fan fiction. No one that knows about the publishing knows that. But so I think I pulled all of these down. I used to have somewhere between 5 and 10. I don't remember the exact number. Actually, Twilight fan fictions. Don't judge. That makes me feel better because it's kind of judged harder than writing fan fiction and stuff. Like if you like Twilight, people are like, "What's wrong with you?" But anyway, I had written one where after Edward leaves, she ends up like getting abducted by a serial killer. And then that serial killer, I actually took from that story and like brought it into like a different world. And the play is based off of that character. So in the story that I wrote, the serial killer was male, and I changed that. And then I changed, obviously it wasn't based out of Forks, Washington. I based it out of my hometown, which super creeps some people out. I'm from a tiny town, Helix, Oregon. It's like population like 160, like it's really small. And so it would be crazy. Yeah, it's little. It would be crazy to have a serial killer there. And I was like, I'm going to put him there. But I changed it to a girl. And then I did it with like a circular plot a little bit. So you start out like in the trial and going through like her being defended and ultimately like winning that like, oh no, she never killed anybody. And then after like you find out like she did kill this person the trial was about, and here's like these 16 other girls that she killed, and like you guys were all fooled, because I set it up so that like it feels like the audience is the jury and the character that plays the juror actually is sitting in the audience. So like when they stand up to give the verdict, they're like an audience member that's talking, because I wanted it to kind of feel like they were complicit in letting the serial killer get off the hook. It was a really interesting show. It's only been performed like 4 times, like in other places. No, I think 5, because I think it just got performed again. I got a royalty check, so it must have. It hasn't been super popular, and I don't know if that's because of who I published through. I published through this place over in England called Lazy Bee Scripts. And a lot of the other scripts that they have are like super family based, and mine is definitely not. Like the girl gets her face bashed in with an iron. Like I would not take a little kid to watch this show. So it could be that, or it could just be like it's published in England and maybe people are looking at American publishers. But I was kind of snotty about the whole thing. I actually didn't send it to any American publishers because I felt like you haven't made it as a writer until you're published in England. So I'm just going to start there. I can die happy now. Do you remember the throwback to musical theater where instead of having stage blood, you use scarves? Like we used red silk for it. And then that made, one, we didn't have to like destroy like the costumes and the set and everything with stage blood. But then 2, one of the scenes actually involves like the cleanup. And so it was easier to just be like moving red silk than to like be dealing with all that corn syrup. The ant alone would be a problem. Fun story that goes with that. So when I was going to college, I worked on campus too. And we had this president he was not a great president, but he also was just super forgetful with people's faces. Like, I'm not kidding you. I met this guy 17 times before he finally clicked who I was. And the reason that he clicked who I was is he came to my play. And I mean, it's kind of hard to forget who I am after you watch a story I wrote about someone getting their face bashed with an iron. Like, I definitely stuck in his head after that. I've sent him one of them. I don't think he's finished it. He's not a big reader, which is sad. It makes my heart hurt. But I think he's read at least half of it. And he's definitely welcome to read any of them because he knows like all of them. And I talked to him about stuff. Like I've talked through a couple plot holes with him and been like, this is just not working. And he particularly Future of Freedom, there was like a section in the middle where I was like, I'm just gonna stop writing this is dumb. And he, like, one chapter is pretty much all him. Like, I wrote it, but it's all, and he's like, this is what you need to do to get out of this hole. Like, I think it would be weird like if he was one of the people that didn't know, because then it would be just like this weird communication divide in our relationship. Like, oh, what are you writing today? Nothing. Like, I think it would be a weird dynamic. So I'm glad that we talk about it. I described some of the terms to him, and we're walking into the movies, and I never think that the terms stick. And he was like, do you think that this movie has any lemons in it? And I was like, oh my God, you remember what a lemon is? It was, when I ended up shutting it down, it was this weird, like, like it wasn't an argument. Like, you know, you have a conversation with someone online and it feels like an argument, but then later you're like, that wasn't an argument. But anyway, like I had one of those kind of conversations that made me like question the whole like having a separate like identity as a fan fiction writer, and if I was like doing a disservice to all of the relationships that I have in my real life by like keeping that a secret. And I don't like this person, she was not being hurtful at all. But it just made me like question so many things about my life. And I had like shut down the page and was thinking about taking down like my profile on fanfiction.net. And I was just like, I was in a weird headspace. But so I did start the page back up, and I just don't post on it as often. And I think it's because I just have like with the people that I feel comfortable sharing with, like I've told them like in real life about the things I'm doing. So then it's not as exciting when I'm like, hey, new chapter. But let's be real, I'm writing a new chapter. I was actually writing before we started talking today. And when I post it, I will probably put a thing up like, hey, because I'm turning my story where like Hermione is a necromancer like into a trilogy. So this chapter will be like the first chapter of the third installment. So I want to like post so people know, hey, like there's a new story out there. You should go read it. Yeah, I think I've just become less active because through everything that happened with that conversation, it just made me feel like interacting on that page was divisive in my life. And so now like I'm on like the Granger Enchanted survivors, like just with my real life profile. My page profile, I added that too, but I don't comment on there or like on there through that one. I just use like my real life one. So I'm trying to find a way that condenses the two together without just like walking up to people on the street and being like, hey, by the way, I write fan fiction. I used to try to keep it super separate, and I'm actually thinking back to an interaction. I think it was with CR Media Gal, actually, because I put like totally different profile of like where I live, when's my birthday, yada, yada, yada. And I think I even like lied in a message, and I'm going to out myself right now. And like got asked like, is this your real birthday? I was like, oh yeah, it's totally my birthday. But it was like the 1st of January, which is not my birthday. So I'm a liar. I'm sorry. But I find that I'm like getting more and more to where it's just like a real interaction instead of having like a different personality. But I definitely like filter it through fanfiction.net first. Like, cause I respond to like any reviews I get unless they're super mean, because then they weren't looking for a response anyway. And like I'll write back and we'll talk on there for a long time before I ever would like send a friend request through Facebook or something like that. The one exception to that would be one celestial being. I can't pronounce her real life name, so I'm not going to try to say it. But I did not initially like message with her on fanfiction.net before becoming friends with her on Facebook. But that was because I had befriended Andrea Weaver, which is CR Media Gal, who is friends with her. And I'm like, okay, I feel like you've been properly vetted. I'm just going to send you a friend request. Oh, Sophie's choice. Like, how do you choose between your children? So I'd say it's a tie between Chosen, which will always have a special place in my heart, and then I'm obsessed with Future of Ferdom. That's why I'm expanding it. And like I wrote Super Odium, and now I'm writing this next one, which is not titled yet. So when I figure that out, I'll let people know. Probably Chosen, because it's like the first one ever, and like I wouldn't even be a fan fiction writer if it didn't exist. So it is one of your classic, like Harry Potter has a twin sister stories. But I went with a different approach with it. And so she is not technically human, and that sort of impacts like all of these different things that are happening. And it goes through all 7 years. And like some points you'll touch on to like a plot point that did happen in the books, but you'll either see it as it happened because she's not involved, or like see like what this other part of it was. And then it starts to diverge substantially by the 4th book, because she's kind of come into the knowledge of what sort of creature she actually is. I'm trying to decide if it really ruins the story if you know. I don't think it does. She's part Phoenix. Yeah. So, if you are going to read the story and that would mess it up, sorry. But, and she like really starts to come into the knowledge of what that means for her in that book. And then it starts changing the choices that she makes. Plus at the end of the 4th book, there's a whole hostage situation that happens, which changes her character, like, and how she thinks about things and approaches things. So from that point on, I want to say it's like chapter 40, maybe. It's kind of a long one. It's got like 83 chapters. So like somewhere between 35 and 40 is the chapter where that happens. Like it takes a significantly darker tone from that point. And part of that is like plot points. And the part of it is like I grew a lot as a writer and was like not scared of exploring those like angsty and like kind of scary storylines. And then I've actually rewritten that one. So like people who read it the first time, the plot is a little bit different than it was in the initial one. There were some things that I took away and some things that I added. And that I think also is just part of becoming an adult, because I started that when I was like a sophomore in high school. So the very first version and like the first 12 chapters in particular are super naive and not super well written because I was just starting to be a writer. Fan fiction's a tie. Please don't Sophie's Choice me on it, but it's between One Celestial Being and CR Media Gal. I love them equally, and if I was put to be shot to choose, I would let them shoot me. And then real life, this is going to sound like blasphemy. It is not J.K. Rowling. I do think she's amazing. I love her, but my favorite all time is actually Dean Koontz. I keep a book of quotes, and it'll be like if I read something or like, you know, you buy products now and there's like a quote in the packaging, something, and anything that resonates with me. And like just got pages dedicated to him in my book because there's so many. The things that he says in his books are amazing. Like I don't know if you've ever read the Brother Odd, or well, I guess it's the Odd Thomas series. I was in it pulling Brother Odd. I think the second one is Brother Odd. It's the best of all of them, honestly. I swear I've taken like 30 quotes from that and put it in my quote book. But he's my favorite. But J.K. Rowling gets second place. I have Hermione and Severus, and then actually one is mine. I went to LeviosaCon this last summer, and I had a wand maker. Like, he actually made me a wand while I was there, and it's so cute. I'm going to show it to you. It's amazing. Isn't that pretty? And I liked that it had, like, the leafing, kind of like the vines on Hermione's, but it's red, and I just like it. That's hard. I wouldn't want to marry any of them. I would probably marry Mad Eye because despite the fact that he's insane, he's manageably insane. I would fuck Snape. I would kill Dumbledore. But he's going to die anyway. But also, despite the fact that I think he had good intentions, I consider Dumbledore to be a villain. I got into an argument with this girl that I used to work with. Gosh, it's been like 6 years ago, and we were both huge Harry Potter nerds. We got into a huge argument about Dumbledore, and I wrote a 12-page essay about why he was a villain. We had like a writing competition over it, and I was actually really mad at her, not because of the argument that she made, but because she gave me like a half a page written on a notebook as her argument, and I like basically gave her a term paper. Like I cited pages in the book and everything. I'm like, you did not even try. Like, he's definitely a flawed character. Like, even if you don't, but all of the characters are flawed, let's be real. That's why we love the story, though, because if they weren't flawed, it'd be super boring. My favorite color, I feel like that changes every day. Right now, it's like a deep teal. Like my store, because I run a fashion store, we call it Paradise Teal, but that's not a real color. It's like a peacock color almost, like that bluish green. So that's my favorite color right now. Ask me in like 2 days and it'll probably be something else. Gemini. Favorite number, 34. I used to play sports, and that was my number for like every sport I played. I love the idea of a beta. They're amazing. And I mean, I use like a real life version of a beta for when I'm trying to get published. But because I wouldn't call it just free flow writing, because I do kind of plot out where I want to go. But it's essentially free flow is like, once I know what I'm doing, I just sit down and I write. Like a beta would just get irritated with me because I'd be like, I see what you're saying, but I'm not going to fix it. Like when I first started writing, people would write reviews that were like corrections. And I'm just like, no offense, but fuck off. I feel like I have some, which I'll get to in a second, but I'm a little bit more lenient with little things like that. And I think that's just because I'm dyslexic. So I know that like there's so much struggle that can go into writing it that I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I get really, really annoyed if it's like super short paragraphs, like the standard, you know, when you were in like 5th grade and they're like, every paragraph has to have at least 3 sentences. Well, if all of your paragraphs only have 3 sentences, I'm going to assume you're 5. And it drives me nuts. But I also hate it when someone includes the dialogue in the paragraph and it doesn't break it up at all. And so it's like, there's a person talking and then there's a whole paragraph of what they were doing while they were talking. And then there's more dialogue that's still in this same paragraph and it's not separated at all. I'm like, why? My favorite series that is not Harry Potter is actually Animorphs. Have you ever seen that?
Oh, yeah. I
just got judged hardcore from that.
What? No, I love it.
Oh, maybe just because I only saw you out of the corner of my eye. It looks like you're judging me.
No,
I recently rebought all of the books and it took forever to collect them. So then I reread it. And I think maybe when I first read it as a kid, I hadn't read the last book. I'm going to spoil something for you. I'm sorry. So at the end, they kill off 3 of the Animorphs. Now, had I read that as a child, I wouldn't say, oh, Divergent's the first time I read where a main character got killed. But I must not have read that because I was so shocked when I read it. It's been a year or 2 now. It took a long time to collect them. I read them all. And I read the last one, I was like, shut up. They just killed them. I won't tell you who got killed. So that can be your surprise for later. The first thing I would say is don't write for reviews. Write for you. Because you can be underrated. I don't know how many times too. I'll tell you, when I got requested for this to do this, I was like, I'm surprised I would even be featured because I don't get a lot of reviews. But I can't tell you how many times I've Google searched myself and found forums that are saying you should read this author. She's super underrated. No one reviews her, but her work's great. And you have to think about how many times have you been that person that read a great story and didn't review? We've all done it. We have all done it. So how many of those readers do you have lurking on your story? Don't assume because you don't open up your email and have 500 reviews waiting for you, then no one's reading your work or that they don't think it's good. It's about having fun and go read your own work then. If it's a good story and you enjoyed writing it, does it matter? Does it really matter if anybody else liked it? Honestly, I don't think it does. I reread my own work all the time, and sometimes that's an embarrassing thing to do because you read it back and you're like, ugh, maybe I should edit. But sometimes I just I really like that story. I've reread Chosen. I don't think I could count how many times I've reread it because I really like that story. It's a good story. Well, I have to have a story that actually excites me for one thing. But then a lot of times I will, I have Spotify and they have this thing where you can discover new songs and I'll hear a song that makes me think of a plot point. And I'm like, oh, I have to go right before I forget about that. So I would say a lot of music. One time I wrote a whole story off of, I went and saw Spider-Man and it was the one not with the most recent Spider-Man, I can't remember the actor's name, but the last one. I went and there Aunt May said I don't remember even what she said, but it made me think of this riddle type thing that is in another OC. I guess I have 2 stories with original characters in them. God, what's her name? Adele. Of that was secret, what's the cost, secret, all is lost. And it was I thought of that particular thing that she said off of something that Aunt May said. And then I don't even remember the rest of the Spider-Man movie because I had this story spinning out in my head. So sometimes it's movies, but I feel a lot of what gets me in the mood to write is music. And that's why almost every story I have has this is the song you should listen to while you read this chapter. Who are you? No, I'm just kidding. I don't think so, because I think what I would have said is because I feel all of the people you interact with on there are usually writers too. And I would just say, you do you. Don't worry about the reviews or the traffic or whatever. Just have fun. That's what we're here for with fan fiction, is to enjoy and not let that story die. So just do you.
I know you need it. Do you feel it? Drink the